Evening, guys. I hope you're enjoying the regular season of the Keeper League and are preparing for your postseason battles. Some teams have a lot to play for. Others definitely are playing for the hopes and dreams of the 2016 draft season. And to that, I wish you all luck. But I'm here to discuss an incident that was brought to my attention about our Masters Conference and a series of illegal lineups that were started by one of our GMs. So I looked into this and it was brought to my attention that Slurpee23, good friend of mine, great fantasy competitor, class guy, had spent 5 of the 13 weeks starting a lineup without a kicker, and in turn he started either an extra wide receiver or an extra running back. If you think of what the sort of impact that would have, you'd probably have the same reaction that I and a lot of others did. It could be potentially devastating. So I needed to look into it. I needed to do a thorough analysis on first how it could have happened, and how nobody knew that it was happening as it happened. This went on for 5 weeks, so there were 10 individual GMs that went up against these illegal lineups, and it was never brought to my attention. It was never known, and ultimately, I have to make a decision. So I crunched some numbers, and the results were staggering. But first and foremost, I definitely wanted to get the reaction of the people involved. So I first reached out to Slurpee and got a digital response and reaction. And at the beginning, when I was I wanted to judge his response and see kind of why he would have started extra running backs instead of kickers. And of course, he had his reasons, and I must admit though, at the beginning when I first saw those, I mean my original reaction was sort of like this.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
I mean, it was pretty tough to believe. Everybody knows you have to start a kicker in fantasy football, but the settings were set wrong. They were set to our off-season settings, where I have to turn that off because when we do roster cuts, you've got to cut down to your 3 keepers, and obviously the first people you want to release are your kickers and defenses. So when you make those drops, they're going to allow that in the off season. In the regular season, if the setting is on, it won't allow you to drop a kicker or defense because you must at least have one to start. So that was actually how it happened technically. Definitely an oversight and a gap under the Commish duties, and the Commish will be dealt with accordingly. There are the grade sheet that comes out on the Commish, and he will be judged accordingly. But back to my initial reaction. The reaction was like a lot of people I talked to, and I talked to a bunch of UGMs, and a lot of people said, "Come on, man, that is Bush League," and it was a lot worse. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details, but once we got back on track, I I hunkered down and I just wanted to get a little more details, and I had to, speak to Slurpee, and I just gave him one last chance, and I had to give it to him straight.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
So Slurpee, being a man of his word, gave it to me straight like I asked, and he actually put together a statement, which I have right here. I'm going to read that to you now, word for word, and this is his message to the league. I'll begin. I'll go from the beginning. It says, "I'm not sure if I am the only one that had this incorrect roster format, but I want to let the league know that I was only trying to follow the rules posted under roster composition. Those that know me from the past know that I believe strongly in fair competition. It would never do anything to gain an unfair advantage. RT Sports will usually not allow any misformatted lineups, which gave me reassurance that my lineup options were legal. This is my first year in the league, and I hope this doesn't cloud the quality of this league. It has been a fun season, and good luck to those continuing on to the playoffs. Although the outcomes of the matchups would not have been affected." And then in parentheses, he put, take a look back. An extra Charles Clay didn't do chic for me. I apologize for putting the Commish and the other players in the league in a difficult position. That was his response. And I accept it. I accept the response. I did that. I did. I went and I took a look back, and the numbers will literally blow your mind. If he had been, if the settings were set correctly, and if he was to set a kicker each week, as crazy as it sounds, it's a virtual certainty he would have still won every game that he won. And in the one instance where he potentially could have lost a game, if I were to penalize him, and if he put in the kicker that he had the entire year, he would have won that game too. So it really put me in a tough position, because when I look at it and crunch the numbers, he either won by a lot or lost by a lot. And let's not forget, I really was flabbergasted that 10 other GMs that will go unnamed for now played matchups against this guy and didn't notice, and it was not brought to my attention. So obviously we're at the 11th hour, and I need to make a decision. And as this continued to spread like wildfire, thanks, Jarrett Link, this became a bit of a fiasco, and there were several people that had skin in the game. Several, if I were to forfeit some of the players, or go through and take the players out, Slurpee would have dropped at least a minimum of one game, which would then put him in a three-way tie record-wise for the wild card. And once I dug through all these details, they got other people involved. So I will post any details for anybody who wants to know. I crunched every scenario possible. I considered taking the lowest scoring illegal player out of his roster. I considered taking his highest scoring player out of his roster. I ultimately will probably settle on the most realistic person to take out of his roster. But again, when you go through the lineups and you look, it almost has no effect on any matchup except for one. And obviously, if I were to take away his league activity, you can go and see his activity. He was very active. He would spend waiver cash every week. He would make pickups and drops, so it is also a virtual certainty that he would have picked up a kicker. So if I'm going to take a player away, should I give him the benefit of the doubt of putting a kicker in and crunching the numbers? So after I did this, basically we've got a situation where we've got a guy who's tied for his division lead by record and has a points advantage of only it's under 6. It's 5.3, I believe, or 5.8, and making the numbers right again, depending on how it is. You could argue he would even gain a bigger point lead if I were to take away the running backs and wide receivers, but add in a kicker. His numbers actually go up, so it's definitely not as cut and dry as what it is. And for that, however, rules are rules, and I believe that there needs to be some form of justice done. So, had he fallen into a tie, it does bring another GM into the equation who won out on points. And what I'm basically going to do will be something not unprecedented. I look back at the forefathers of the fantasy history, and I've been doing this for a long time. This is my 15th season, and I have had to do some odd things in the past, and this is something I had to dig way back. This dates back pre coaches poll days, but I think I found something that will be fair and reasonable more than anything else, and it lets it be decided on the field. And the only other option was to look at what happens in the NFL. We've got a New England Patriot. We've got a combination of Spygate and Deflategate and all other kinds of things. So I could penalize him for 2016. I could take away a draft pick. I could hit him with a fine. But I don't know if that would make anybody feel better if you miss the playoffs as because of it. So I've given this a lot of thought, consulted with a lot of people, and here's ultimately what I'm going to decide. So this week's playoff matchups in the Masters Conference is going to go as such. You have a issue with the potential number one seed. There's some controversy on who's the actual number one seed between Slurpee 23 and Cell Block AL. And you subsequently have a controversy on who's the wild card, whether it be a penalized Slurpee 23, which the vast majority of the league thinks there needs to be some sort of penalty. And then the other team would be Huge Dicka, which gets a bit of a second chance at life because of this. So the matchups this week that I've decided on are going to be as follows. We're going to match up 2 versus 3 like you always do. So the Lima Cowboys will be facing off against Suck for Luck. Huge congratulations to those two teams, and good luck to Mike O'Neill's and Keith Watson that get to have a nice little postseason battle. The other matchup is going to be all 3 teams. I am going to match up Slurpee 23. I'm going to match up Cell Block AL, and I'm going to match up Huge Dicka. They're all 3 going to battle. Menage a trois of playoff chances, if you will. They're going to play and settle it on the field. So the highest scoring team of the 3 come end of day, Monday night, will move on to the postseason and have a chance at Fantasy Glory. The team that comes in second place is essentially the team that would have gotten in, but subsequently lost its playoff matchup and will exit the postseason, but gain a $100 payout for making the playoffs. The team that comes third and finishes last in this special battle will have been deemed not making the playoffs. And subsequently, we will take that score that third place team has and match him up against the bottom in the lottery bracket of the 8th seed, which will be It Hurts I Fart, or It Hurts When I Fart. Chris Whalen's team. Chris Wallen. Sorry, Chris. I want to make sure I get your name pronounced properly on record. And that's how we're going to do it. So the team that finishes third will then be compared to the performance that is put up by It Hurts When I Fart, and then that team will be obviously win no postseason money, but will potentially have a chance to win the lottery balls should the performance match up. So there was a lot of analysis done. The thorough investigation, the interviews, the scenarios had gone back and forth, and I pulled as many people as I could to sort of help and gain their insight and their knowledge, and I even had a special consultation with the man who has been under the video spotlight for the past couple of years, and he had some comments that he wanted to apply, and I had a real tough time understanding how it applied to what we were doing, but nevertheless, he wanted to have the input, and I gave him a chance to give his 2 cents.
They have four teams that have better than a 500 record that they've defeated, and that combined with really an offense and a defense that are very strong on both sides of the ball. So I think that's what won the day in the committee's eyes for the number one ranking.
I don't know what that was. I apologize for airing it. I think it's safe to say that guy is a complete moron and knows nothing about being able to come up with any sort of rationale and anything that matters. I apologize. But that's it. Sorry for the delay. We've got a great postseason ahead of us. Best of luck to the teams that are fighting for playoff glory. We'll go ahead and make a post on the message board. You'll be able to read Slurpee 23's official response in print. I'll be posting that for your own reading, and this is a lesson to be learned for everybody. We have really fallen victim to what I like to call the fanification of fantasy football. It's we are in too many leagues, and we only care about our own team, and we don't pay attention to some of the history and the records and futility and downright unluck. You're scoring the second most points in the league, and I finished dead last. It's impossible, but nevertheless, let this be known that don't fall for the fanification of America, because you never know what may slip right underneath your nose. You may have a guy who doesn't start a kicker against you and beat you with an illegal lineup. So we will get better as a group. Slippery's a great guy. For those who have called for his ousting of the league, I've decided to allow him to stay. He brings impact in a positive way to the league, and for those of you who have asked, I must be honest, there have been people who have asked for me as commissioner to resign my position and step down. I'm not going to address that right now. I mean, this is definitely a an oversight that should not have happened as Commish, and we'll have to cross that bridge moving forward. So that's enough for tonight, and I will let you back to your postseason strategies. Good luck and good night.